basically, and it's going to slow down orders. As our supply increases, that will no longer be an issue, and it may just be like, you
Hmm.
know, yeah, I spoke. Luckily enough, I'm familiar with the head of our short selling hard to borrow guys. He explained that this is a very liquid situation, and it may be that you'll never experience it again. But when these orders were placed, we were percentage points away from, okay, we need to start charging hard to borrow fees. And if we do that, like I said, we're legally obligated to tell you
Hmm.
before we do it. So,
I guess that information can't be surfaced to the user, but the user just has to find out later
unfortunately,
that there's a
yeah.
1 minute delay between the order and the market being able to catch it.
Uh, yeah, unfortunately, and in any trades like that, because of the nature of it, will stand as is. I even think there's some regulatory stuff where we cannot divulge how much shares we have available to short, right? Until we hit hard to borrow, and then it's up to us to do an equitable, amount of charge depending on our balance. Um, but for example, I couldn't tell you how many shares are available to short right now here at E-Trade, right? I can't do that.
Okay.
And so I think that for number one, logistics, I don't think we can do it. But number two, I think there's regulatory reasons that we can't tell you unless it actually hits that line. It triggers hard to borrow interest, and then we're obligated to tell you the rate that it would be.
But could you disclose to me if I'm trying to do 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, if that's okay? Or is just let me find out myself when I try to do it and then watch what
Yeah,
happens.
it's going to be a it's going to be a case by case basis, and I
Okay.
think you know for did you have some other orders that executed quickly later?
Well, yes, yes, if they were small, and I did some
Yeah,
that were 10, I did some that were 100. I did a
yeah,
market for 900. I don't know if you can see that by looking at me.
yeah,
I covered it towards the end of the day, but it
and
did take a
that
while.
took about 10 seconds. So I think what probably happened is our supply increased a little bit, so they were taking less time to review. And it may be that even on Monday, it's not a problem because our supply has increased enough that we're not at that point where it could slip into hard to borrow. But that's what occurred here. I don't think there's any reasonable way that we could make you aware of that. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
maybe test orders would help, stuff like that. But in an ideal world, this will go away as it keeps trading. As more people start buying it within margin accounts, we can hypothecate it, and our supply will increase.
Mhm.
So in an ideal world, it won't be an issue. But for this particular stock at this time, that's what caused those delays.
Right. And I guess the inventory is only coming from within the E-Trade customer, right? It's not like you're reaching out further to try to borrow.
Yeah, until we hit hard to borrow, we're generally not going to lead on other groups to borrow with, especially for something like this that's fairly new.
Okay. And then one other question is, I actually have some long positions. Would I'm just wondering if I short, would does E-Trade actually borrow against my own shares that I have on the long side?
We could. I mean, technically, it's considered a non-position, so we don't count it as a position. But I mean, yeah, we
Good.
could. If you're in a margin account, we're
Yeah.
probably hypothecating those shares. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be funny. I'm shorting and borrowing at the same time just to,
Yeah, and it could be technically it could be your own shares. Yeah.
yeah. But it doesn't matter to me because I don't see that at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So the trade inquiry put kind of an official, I guess, mark on what occurred here. We won't be making any adjustments or anything for this. We consider this just a reality of a stock that is unavoidable, right? Rather than like a failure on our part or a mistake, we consider this just a mechanical reality of short selling that there's a certain amount of risk assumed that we may not be able to locate shares, or there may be delays in locating shares, and so that's kind of the policy that we have towards it.
Yeah.
But like I said, in a perfect world, this should rectify itself soon as just more people buy it and we can hypothecate them.
Yeah. Do you think one of the outcomes would be that if a market order is pending for more than a certain amount of time, that the client, would be able to get some type of insight instead of having to call? Because by then, time is precious. I can't wait. And
Yeah.
that would be nice just to be able to surface that we're trying to locate, or that it's doing more than just
If
pending.
you're seeing 1 minute, if you're seeing 1 minute delays, right? Because I saw your other order was large that had a 10-second delay. That probably means our situation improved.
Yeah.
If you have a 1 minute plus delay on a market order of 1,000 shares, that means that we're close to hard to borrow. That
Yeah.
you may keep running into this, and the
Yeah.
only fix for that is to wait it out.
Yeah. I personally didn't think a
Yeah,
thousand was that significant in the grand scheme of the total available number of shares. That
and it's probably not, but I think it may be. And like I said, we do have stricter policies around short selling,
okay.
kind of being an older outfit. And so it probably just takes a human to go in there and approve it so that
Okay.
someone's liable at some point down the line. So that's kind of how it works.
Well, thanks for telling me some of the process that goes into short selling that is not quite apparent.
I'll be frank with you, I learned too. Like I said, I had never seen this before. My order room was scratching their head. It took me to going up to the highest level to actually get an answer of why this may be. So I learned something new today too.
Yeah.
So
Well, we got something both. We both learned something. There's the market
yeah,
mechanics, there's the
yeah.
order processing, there's the legality and compliance and FINRA rules. Yeah, a lot going on besides
Yeah,
just the
you
usual.
can tell why they made me take a bunch of tests before I could do this job, right?
Yeah. Did you have to do like Series sevens?
I'm Series 7,
Right.
63, and 3.
I'm not going to be a broker anytime soon, but I do like to learn about these mechanics and some of the way that order flow works with the brokers and the processing and the whole cycle of money flow.
Yeah, and it changes, and it's something you kind of have to stay on top of. And working with active traders, you learn more, and you kind of get into the nitty gritty and how does it actually work and what comes out with the best outcomes and things like that. And so it makes it interesting, and it's fun to share with clients too, right? I'm not telling you you can find this stuff on Reddit somewhere, right? But it's still fun to share with clients. Kind of, there is a complex system here. It's not just numbers on a screen. We're actually doing things. There's moving parts behind all this. We actually are trained for disaster response. So in the case of like maybe like an extreme disaster, or God forbid, war or something like that, we're trained to do paper orders that we send through phone lines. Because even if an asteroid's about to hit the Earth, the money's got to keep moving, right? That's how everything stays going.
Right.
Soldiers got to get paid and fed. You know what I mean? Gas stations have to be filled up. And so if the end of the world comes, I'll be at work using hardline phone systems to take orders from large clients. Isn't that insane?
I read about the pits on Wall Street from years ago before that went all
Yeah,
electronic, like 25 years ago, and that's would think kind of in recent time, but before that it was
yeah,
just a bunch of guys yelling and bidding, and that was how they moved the
yeah,
markets.
yeah. And there's still a little bit of that, but now it's all digital. But we still do have hard phone lines and everything like that, just in case. And
Just in
so
case,
it's
yeah.
kind of interesting. Yeah, it's my pleasure. I hope you have a good rest of your day.